In the biggest decision on Jammu and Kashmir in independent India, the Home Minister of India, Amit Shah, made his much-anticipated announcement in Parliament. Through a notification issued by the President of India, Article 370, which provides special status to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and Article 35A, which empowers the legislature of Jammu and Kashmir to define its permanent residence, have been now revoked. The presidential order issued through the notification is called the Constitution Application to Jammu and Kashmir Order 2019. It comes into force with immediate effect. With this, all provisions of the Indian Constitution, as amended from time to time, will apply on Jammu and Kashmir.
संविधान के अनुच्छेद 373 के अंतर्गत भारत के संविधान के अनुच्छेद 370 के खंड 1 के साथ पठित अनुच्छेद 370 के खंड 3 द्वारा प्रदत्त शक्तियों का प्रयोग करते हुए राष्ट्रपति संसद की सिफारिश पर यह घोषणा करते हैं कि यह दिनांक जिस दिन भारत के राष्ट्रपति द्वारा इस घोषणा पर हस्ताक्षर किए जाएंगे और इसे सरकारी गैजेट में प्रकाशित किया जाएगा, उस दिन से अनुच्छेद 370 के सभी खंड लागू नहीं होंगे, सिवाय खंड 1 के नामक तदनुसार पढ़ा जाएगा.
Besides this, Amit Shah has also mooted to bifurcate the state of Jammu and Kashmir into the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the Union Territory of Ladakh. As per the notification, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir will have a legislature, while the Union Territory of Ladakh will be centrally administered. Stating that Article 370 had been a hindrance in the integration of the people of Jammu and Kashmir to India, Home Minister Amit Shah stated that under the Prime Ministership of Narendra Modi, the government had taken this bold step for the better administration of the state.
सबसे ज्यादा पैसा कश्मीर के अंदर गया, फिर भी कश्मीर का लोग आज गरीब क्यों है, वो देश जानना चाहता है. मैं आपके माध्यम से अपील करता हूं, विपक्ष के सभी सभासदों को कृपया चर्चा करिए. आप आपके तर्क बेखौफ रख सकते हैं, शौक से रख सकते हैं. मैं हर एक तर्क का जवाब दूंगा और मैं दृढ़ मान्यता के साथ आया हूं कि धारा 370 हटाने में एक सेकंड भी देरी नहीं करनी चाहिए.
The Rajya Sabha, or the upper house, immediately erupted in protest. Two PDP legislators who tore up the Indian Constitution on the floor of the house were immediately removed. The notification will now be discussed on the floor of both the houses of the Parliament, and it needs to be ratified by both. We have Mr. Brahma Chalani, Professor of Strategic Studies at the Center for Policy Research, joining us live from India's capital, New Delhi, on this broadcast. Professor Brahma Chalani, we've seen the kind of ruckus that has erupted in the Parliament at the announcement. That sort of, gives an idea of what kind of a political, complex hot potato that this has been so far in India.
Yes and no. What has come as a surprise to many is the fact that Mayawati's BSP and the Aam Aadmi Party are both supporting the government move. I don't think the government expected Mayawati or Arvind Kejriwal to lend support to the move on J&K. So, of course, there is a lot of discontent and anger, especially expressed by the PDP and the National Conference members of Parliament. And of course, the Congress has come out very strongly against it, which is, to me, that has come as a big surprise. I expected the Congress to have a more nuanced position, but they have taken a very clear-cut, tough position opposing the government's move. So you have strong reaction, but you also have mellowed reaction. For example, the NDLI, Nitish Kumar's party, deciding to not participate in the debate and in the approval of this move, but not coming in the way of blocking this move. So you have different reactions, and these reactions are very interesting. By and large, it appears that most parties are with the government on bifurcation of J&K as well as on partial revocation of Article 370.
Right. And Professor Brahmachalani, in this new beginning for Jammu and Kashmir as a region, there is a lot of responsibility both on the central government of India, and then what this move also does is put more responsibility on the new government that will be elected in Jammu and Kashmir.
Precisely, because so far the central government, not just this one, but even the previous ones, have palmed off responsibility to the state government or the state politicians. But now the responsibility will be directly of the federal government. The federal government will be responsible for everything in relation to the new Union Territory of J&K. So ensuring peace and security, ensuring the rapid economic development of J&K, ensuring that there is no discrimination of Jammu in the new Union Territory of J&K. All these responsibilities will be assumed by the federal government. I wonder as to why the government did not go for trifurcation, because Ladakh and Jammu have never wanted to remain with the Kashmir Valley. So the government of India has bifurcated the state, made Ladakh independent of the rest of J&K, but kept Jammu with the Kashmir Valley. For the people of Jammu, this is only partially good news that the government has revoked the key elements of Article 370 and created a new political entity in the form of the Union Territory of J&K. But I'm sure the people of J&K, of Jammu, would have preferred to be a separate political entity, independent of the Kashmir Valley. And one other interesting fact is that Ladakh has been made a union territory, and not many people seem to know that Ladakh alone by itself, constitutes more than 50% of the state of J&K in terms of area. To be precise, 55% of the area of the present state of J&K is Ladakh. And a great portion of Ladakh is in Chinese occupation. Aksai Chin Plateau has been occupied by China since the mid to late 1950s, and Aksai Chin is not a small area. It is of a size equivalent to the territory of Switzerland. So Switzerland size Aksai Chin of Ladakh is with China, and so the Ladakh Union Territory, of course, lays claim to Aksai Chin, and therefore the Ladakh map will show the whole of Aksai Chin as part of the Union Territory of Ladakh.
Professor Brahmachalani joining us on this broadcast even as we continue to bring you the latest. And Professor, this is a historic decision by the Indian government, in many ways. And then now all eyes will be on the government to see in the next time period. Give us a time period in your mind as to for the turbulence to be sort of put in place.
Well, it's an interesting question given the fact that turbulence in J&K has been ongoing for decades. So a turbulent-free Kashmir Valley, given the power of Islamists, may not seem conceivable, at least in the near term. So the government of India can only hope that in the medium term it can bring peace to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and certainly in the near term it can reduce the level of violence, the level of mob attacks, and as well as terrorist attacks on security forces and on government and civilian installations. So the aim has to be more modest. The fact is that the rule of the gun prevails in the Kashmir Valley today. You can't overnight pacify that valley. It'll have to be a drawn-out process, but this new move of the government transfers real powers to the federal government to maintain law and order in J&K without being bogged down by local authorities or local politicians. So the responsibility of the federal government will increase tremendously. And therefore, if this move has to be a success, the government of India will have to make sure that they can show that this move has led to a perceptible decline in the level of violence in the Kashmir Valley.
And for that, we have been hearing about the kind of security build-up that has been happening, especially in the last 72 hours or so. Professor Brahmachalani, don't you think that's rather unprecedented, the kind of troops build-up?
No, I think it was smart of the government of India to take all the precautionary measures to send the reinforcements. And these reinforcements have been ongoing for the past 1 week. And then to make this dramatic move by unveiling it in Parliament this morning. So the government of India was very well prepared. It was also very well prepared in terms of ground level security to make this move. Imagine a situation where the government had first made the move and then rushed security reinforcements to the Kashmir Valley. That would have been a very imprudent way of doing things. But in this wiser approach, the security reinforcements were sent first. The army was put on full alert. The hostels housing students were shut last weekend. So the potential areas of trouble were sought to be neutralized before the government made its move. And the coming days, the security situation in J&K, especially in the Kashmir Valley, will be quite a challenging situation for the government of India. And therefore, the government of India and its state level or territory level officials will have to be very vigilant in dealing with any untoward incident, in dealing with attempts by small groups or mobs to create violence.
Right. Sticking with that topic, Professor Brahmachalani, let's get a quick update of some other things that we're discussing. Today's decision on the bifurcation. How is this going to work on the ground? Legally, what are the steps to be followed from here on? We have some reactions coming in from experts. Let's listen in.
So first step will be Parliament will, acting as the Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir, consider the bifurcation. And then Parliament will pass the bills, reorganization bills, and as and when that is done, the bifurcation will take place.
370 is a very unique article because 370 gives the right to the President of India to recall 370 without going through the constitutional amendment process. Now that's something which is very, very, different from any other article. If any other article had to be amended, you had to go through the amendment process, which is, going for a 2/3 majority, etc. Now 370 has been put in the Constitution by the Constituent Assembly, giving powers to the President to sort of take back 370 whenever he thought it was necessary, because the Constituent Assembly itself felt that 370 is not going to remain for long, should not remain for long. It should have been there only for a short while. Now, as far as the justification to remove 370, of course, that's purely a political decision. But 35A also remaining for so long is actually completely unjustified.
Right, those are the legals telling us about how the bifurcation is going to work, and also giving their perspective on what this means. Professor Brahmachalani, many in the legal community too agreeing that this was always a temporary provision and it was not meant to be there for long. So in a sense, this is a question of better late than never.
The Indian Constitution has three types of articles in it. One set of provisions are permanent, another set of provisions are transitional, And then you have these temporary provisions in the Constitution. Article 370 was clearly a temporary provision in the Constitution. That it remained in place for 65 years is remarkable, because it was never intended to be in the Constitution for that long. In fact, the reference in that article to Constituent Assembly clearly suggests that it was meant to be a very, not just a temporary provision, but meant to last only for a short time. But it's taken 65 years for the government of India to revoke the key subsections of that article. The subsection 1 of Article 370 will remain in place, but the other subsections have been revoked or being revoked through parliamentary ratification. So from a constitutional standpoint, what has happened is important, but politically the step is far more momentous than what the constitutional element might suggest.
Professor Brahmachalani, our strategic affairs expert, joining us here on this broadcast on this big day for India and for Kashmir. Thank you, Professor Brahmachalani, for taking time out to be with us here on this broadcast. Now, after the historic decision by the Indian government to abrogate Articles 370 and 35A, now there are reports coming in of a massive deployment of troops in Kashmir. Close to 8,000 paramilitary troops have now been airlifted from the states of Uttar Pradesh, Odisha, Assam and others into the valley. Reports indicate that the troop induction is still underway, which means that more troops will be deployed very soon. This is, of course, in addition to the 35,000 paramilitary forces already stationed in the valley since last month.